Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast, first one in a little while, with myself and Cam from Institutional Fi, where Cam will be giving the ultimate rapid fire update on crypto markets, including pricing, flows, and market moving news. But before he does, we'll get the legals out the way. So as usual, nothing discussed on this space session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, Institutional Fi, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed that of the thinking of a word beginning with C that I can say out loud. Cam O'Connor. Cam, how are you, my friend?
Very well, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. I always panic because I keep thinking the word can't. But yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm
It's
good.
nice to know that when you think of me, you
Well,
think of
no,
that.
this is why I pause, because you're absolutely not. You know, we've met a few times. You know, we've shared a couple of beers. You're absolutely not a CUNT. So I don't want to, I don't want to, mouth you, like, well, not to your face anyway. Especially when
I
you
should put that on
probably,
my bio.
yeah,
Verified,
exactly.
not a.
Yeah, exactly. Safe from. Cool. What's been occurring?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Apologies to our listeners. We've not done one in a while. That's mainly due to myself not being very, very
Oh
well.
no,
Getting over.
no, and I was away as well. It's not just you. I'll
There
shoulder
we.
some of the blame.
That's very kind of you. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, but we'll jump in, and what we'll do, we'll highlight from some of the key features from last week's news. Break down some of BTC's price analysis, Ethereum's XRP. We'll jump into it, and hopefully our listeners will be able to come away with this field of knowledge over the last week of crypto
Exactly,
activity.
exactly.
So let's jump into it. Bitcoin's price action continues to dominate, no doubt. It soared to around $112,000 in May, fueled by a whopping $5.6 billion ETF flow into BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, really leading the charge amongst those Bitcoin ETFs. Public companies now hold around $85.6 billion in Bitcoin, and that sees a 4% jump from April, showing corporate treasuries are really trying to adopt this Bitcoin standard. But, volatility struck with BTC dipping to around $103,760 on May 29th of this month, before recovering to $106,000, but failing to jump over the mark. BTC currently trades in at $104,000, almost even as we're talking. Still, some caution lingers as last year's Bitcoin conference triggered a 30% crash in the markets. And unfortunately, market memory could play a part here, with traders fearing that there could be more short-term downtrend to continue. Ethereum's showing signs of strength, with analysts noting across multiple platforms that it might be finally breaking its downtrend against Bitcoin. Interestingly, SharpLink Gaming company, they just basically raised $425 million, and they plan to hold ETH as a treasury asset. So signaling corporate interest in Ethereum there, which could potentially push ETH prices higher. Looking over to the ETF side of things, from May 27th to the 30th, spot Bitcoin ETFs recorded a net outflow of $157 million for the week, ending the 6-week streak of net inflows. And in complete contrast, spot Ethereum ETFs saw a weekly net inflow of around $286 million, marking their third consecutive week of inflows. Jumping over to some altcoins, XRP unfortunately is going to be a mixed bag of news here. After what we saw on a macro side, a 255% rally from November of last year to January of this year, it peaked out around $3.31. Now it's down around about 34% from there. There are a few catalysts to pay attention to. Of course, we had the CME Group list their futures trading. That's been live for over 2 weeks now. And Coinbase just announced their new 24/7 XRP futures starting this month, which is June, suggesting institutional interest isn't fading away, but gaining momentum. I'm also, again, on the topic of XRP, worth adding in there. I'm seeing a lot of posts on X claiming that XRP will be hitting $60,000 in the near future. I just want to put this into perspective. With the asset trading at $2.17 or near about, that market cap is at $130 billion. So it would need to see basically an excess of 27,000 times larger market cap than it is right now at $130 billion.
Good
Do
luck
you
with that.
think that's possible?
No, not really. When you
Are
put
you
it like
taking the
that,
higher or lower?
yeah, I'll take the unders, please.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Don't think I'm winning this one then.
No.
Yeah, so the point there, just be careful where you get your information and your analysis from. Even more so as, crypto's definitely making its way into all the headlines recently. Let's jump on to the news side of things. Security issues are still, unfortunately, arising in the crypto sector. Tax Shield reported 20 major hacks in May with around $244 million stolen. However, I'll caveat that was a 40% drop from April, but obviously still a hefty hit to the crypto space. A chilling case in Manhattan saw two crypto investors charged with kidnapping and torturing a trader for his Bitcoin, showing the real world risks of holding crypto. We kind of touched on this story, or
Yeah.
you may have raised it in the morning blast, I think,
No,
actually.
do you know what?
Um,
I remember me and you talking about this a couple of weeks ago, where I kind of semi tongue in cheek said, not, there could be like a sub industry pop up, which is like, security for these crypto, very kind of, um, public crypto kind of faces that all of a sudden were now at such a price where they're now targets. It was all great, all Lambos and putting your face in on your Twitter accounts and on your Instagram, but all of a sudden if you're claiming you've got a gazillion pounds worth or dollars worth of crypto, you put a massive target on the back of your head. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to follow, and you would think that it's only going to get worse as the price goes up, touch wood. But also, as we saw already, with the Coinbase hack, we're already seeing some doxing happen on the back of that. So I think it's going to be, a nervy time for these people that have been very, very in the public eye, claiming to hold lots of crypto.
Absolutely. And I suppose it wouldn't even be necessarily if you've posted a recent post about holding lots of crypto. You date it back, go a couple years,
Yeah, no,
thieves not
exactly.
necessarily caring about the time scale.
Yeah.
If they think you've got something and they can track you down, well then
And I
unfortunately
think it kind of
puts you at risk.
it'll be a wake up call for a lot of these, I say kids. I'm nearly 42. It'll be a wake up call for a lot of these kids that have been giving it the big one with with me Lambo and all this and all me crypto. Where you look at traditional markets and big traders, the last thing they would ever want is to be in the public eye, and there's a reason for that. And I think we could have a bit of a wake up call for the crypto kids that maybe being public eye and giving yourself the big one in public isn't really a long-term strategy if you want to keep your money.
Who realized that was the short that they were playing on themselves? Yeah, you raise a really good point. Really good point. We'll move on to some more stories to appreciate. It's quite a lot to pack in. But definitely something I believe, unfortunately, that we will be covering, in the near future as well. So, we'll try to keep it positive on a positive note. But yeah, there's a moral of the story, don't flash, don't flash
What is
stuff
it?
and,
Is that
be really careful.
money talks, wealth whispers? There you go.
There you go. Add that proverb to your bio.
Yeah.
um, according to Look On Chain, the donation wallet of Ross Ulbricht, founder of the dark web platform Silk Road, received a transfer of 300 BTC, which is approximately $31.4 million, yesterday. Previously, Ulbricht raised around $1.8 million in pledged BTC by auctioning off personal items from before and during his imprisonment through the Bitcoin auction platform Scarcity. So someone's very, very generously donated to Ross there. I wouldn't mind just throwing out a wallet address, and if anybody else wants to put 300 BTC in there,
Yeah, exactly. I'll take it.
yeah, feel free if you're just giving it away. Anyway. Moving on, Athena has announced that its stablecoin USDE and the TON staked version, which is TS USDE, have been integrated into the TON blockchain, and are now accessible through major non-custodial wallets such as TON Space, MyTON Wallet, TON Hub. There's a theme here, TON Keeper, providing, and this is the key part for raising this story, Telegram users with the ability to have the dollar saving attributes as well as accessing DeFi services. So just using the Telegram app there. In terms of, making this accessible to every user, well, everybody pretty much on the planet has access to Telegram. Incredible work there from the Ton team. FTX has announced that the commencement of its second distribution, dispersing over $5 billion to convenience and non-convenience class creditors who have completed the requirement prerequisites. Customers are expected to receive the funds within 1 to 3 business days, dated back to Friday. So by end of day tomorrow at the latest, these creditors should be receiving a split of $5 billion. Again, you probably could add to that there's a potential here for this to cause some selling pressure to BTC and some other assets over the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll probably see some more headlines goes as on-chain analysts track these distributed funds to see what they're doing with them. So according to CNBC, SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce said that the Trump token is outside the agency's regulatory scope. She noted that since the SEC no longer oversees meme coins, investors shouldn't expect any guidance on Trump, which the meme coin trumps. So just more content to this. Back in February, the SEC announced that most meme coins are not considered securities under US federal law. So yeah, basically say we're not going to be looking into Trump and his meme coin. Bloomberg analyst James Seifert stated that REC shares had filed an effective prospectus. The words are coming
Prospectus.
up. Prospectus for Solana and Ethereum staking ETF. Thank you, Ryan. In the US with a potential launch in the coming weeks. These funds are registered under the 1914 Act, structured as C corporations, and gain spot exposure through Cayman subsidiaries, allowing them to bypass the traditional 19b4 approval process. Now, why is this interesting? Well, the SEC were really quick to pick up on the staking mechanism loophole, stating that James stated that the SEC seems to be saying that the clever legal and regulatory moves used to wedge this thing through have actually made it so that the fund doesn't qualify under the rule C611. So rule C611 is commonly known as the quote unquote ETF rule. What makes the 1914 Act funds like the one filed here by REC shares and other futures products not have to go through a long drawn out 19b4 process with deadlines and delays like we're used to hearing about with the Bitcoin ETF, the spot ETF products and the Ethereum spot ETF products. So the rule does more than that, but that's the bit that's relevant for now. The SEC seems to be saying and arguing that these products likely don't qualify anymore under the C611. 6011, and therefore cannot be listed as they're currently structured. No doubt we're going to hear a lot more on this story as it continues to develop, but an interesting move from REC shares to try and get around the staking mechanism loophole and launch these things to market within a couple of weeks. But that doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. As I'm sure everybody's aware, we've just had the 2025 Las Vegas Bitcoin conference, but you would be forgiven if you thought that it was the stablecoin conference, as most of the talks that were given highlighted stablecoins numerous amount of times throughout all the speeches. I was listening to quite a bit of it to just catch any some news stories, and honestly the amount of times I heard the word stablecoin or we're focusing on stablecoins, I generally thought, what is this? This isn't a Bitcoin conference at the moment. This is basically a regulatory meetup to discuss regulations on stablecoins and how that is the future. I thought, hold on a minute, aren't you guys meeting because Bitcoin's the future? There seems to be a little bit of a confusion at the Bitcoin event this year, that's for sure. And I suppose, as we highlighted earlier, the Bitcoin short is very much, Bitcoin conference short is very much in play. Seeing so far that the token down from $112,000 to just a few ticks above 103,000. Our last story, one that you finally kindly shared to me actually, is Circle shareholders aim to raise $896 million in an upsized US IPO. This is a story coming from Reuters. Circle, Internet, and some of its existing shareholders, like Coinbase, are aiming to raise as much as $896 million in an upsized initial public offering in the United States, the stablecoin giant said on Monday. The New York-based Circle and some existing investors are now offering around 32 million shares priced between $27 and $28 a piece. And this compares with the $624 million expected in proceeds at the top of the previously disclosed offering of 24 million shares priced between $24 and $26 a piece. Circle will list on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol CRCL, and JP Morgan, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs are the lead underwriters for the offering. So that was quite a few different news stories there that we've jammed together. Hopefully it made sense and it flowed quite well,
I thought
getting
it did.
back into the swing of these spaces.
I thought it did. I thought it did. Have you? Sorry, did we go straight into news, or did you also give the latest on the flows and stuff? I don't remember. Did you mention flows in that this morning? Is it ready to
Yeah,
go?
we did.
Okay, sorry, my brain's a bit mushy.
No
Which
worries.
obviously bodes me in no particular state to be going to Vegas on Wednesday. So on that, funny enough, so I know we've just come back from a week away, and we're doing today and tomorrow's show, and then you've got a week, back end of the week as admin, and I've got back end of the week in Vegas. So it's very much stop start, but we promised from next week to be fully on top of it. The podcast will be up and running as well, so you can access it via your podcast players, and we can really crack on for the second half of the year and really get these flying. Big
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, Cam, thank you so much for the quick update and the latest news in crypto. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, especially all of you that play it back on the record. We really do appreciate all you guys. And yeah, take care, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.